Welcome to DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, so let's get started. All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today we have special guest, Pierce Showe. Pierce, how's it going?
I'm just amped up to be talking to you, man. It's cool that you've got this podcast going on in Dallas.
Yeah,
The Dallas running scene's awesome. I was running on the KD Trail today.
yeah, I
Shout
saw
out
that on your,
Dallas Running.
and you're fast. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. I saw that you running on K Trail, and you're running like 7 miles at 7-minute pace. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't just do far things, and if you run ultra marathons, you can run fast too. I've had a time of my life where I went after a fast marathon, and I'm actually gonna prep for Houston here shortly, so going
Cool.
back into the fast. It's fun to run fast.
I agree. Are you doing the marathon or half? I see.
I'm gonna do the Houston full.
Okay. I'll be there at the half, so maybe I'll get to see you there.
Yeah, that
You
would be
know.
great.
So here's the thing is I was research on you and wow, one, you have quite the following on YouTube, Instagram. I don't know how to see it. I'm sure you have TikTok. I'm not sure, but you certainly have a really great following. So I can appreciate that. It's funny because a lot of runners, especially in DFW, don't have followings like that. But you're doing some amazing things. And so that's really why I got you on the podcast, is because you're doing extraordinary things. I talked to this one woman not too long ago, Allison Miller. I mentioned that she did 400 miles within 10 weeks, did that kind of that, what do they call that? The grand slam
Of the hundreds.
of the hundreds. And so I've never heard of that until I started talking to her, but you've done even more cool things as well. And so as a matter of fact, you've done some 200 milers. We'll get into that. You've done 5Ks. You've done I think you even hit a world record, and we'll talk about your
Yeah,
world record in I think it's a half marathon, and is it 150 days
153. Yeah, on a treadmill
on a treadmill?
in
So
Irving. So in Dallas.
in DFW, yeah, that's great. So we'll talk about all of that. So I'm certainly excited to get deep. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about this. One is you have this 1980s haircut, and I saw some of your other stuff that you've done. It's more of a mullet now; it's really just puffy. Are you bringing that back? It's pretty iconic. Or are you just avoiding like the barbers during like heavy training blocks? What's going on?
A little bit of everything. That's funny you say avoid the barbers during heavy training blocks because I was just doing the half marathons and then I went out to Colorado for a bit because I did Leadville and I haven't been home to get my hair cut. No, but it's just fun. It's memorable. I started the mullet because my mentor had a mullet and I just kept it. It was just too good and we're bringing it back, baby.
I love it. It's a great persona as well. It's pretty cool, pretty funny. And you told me a little secret. We don't have to go deep into this, but something special's happening coming up. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm running is no longer my girlfriend, and I'm not no longer married to running because I'm getting married on Saturday. So
Wow.
gonna be running through life with a partner now. So I'm excited for that.
I'm going to talk a little bit about that because she has some, if you're going to continue this on after we kind of dive deep into some of your history on running, support has got to be there, right? For both, right? You get to support her and what she wants to do and all of that kind of stuff. And I've talked
Yeah.
about a lot of that on my podcast with a lot of these women that are running these really fast times and marathons. They're hitting under 3 hours. They have to do high intensity training, right? So running 70, 80, 90 miles, and they have 2 or 3 kids, right? And their husbands are big time into either running or CrossFit or something like that. And so we'll talk about that later, but think about a plan that you might think about later with the wife and stuff like that. But congratulations, it's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about you, your history, like when you first started running and then how you got into ultramarathon. Let's do that.
Yeah. So how I started running was grew up in Columbus, Ohio. A big part of my story is my parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. That was really challenging for me growing up, but God's really shown me through it all. Like it's developed me into who I am today, and I would not be who I am today without that. And so
Yeah.
what it did was it put a drive in me to work really hard. And so I was always a really hard worker growing up, was never the most talented athlete, but I just worked really hard. And lacrosse was big in my hometown in Ohio. And so I played lacrosse, and come high school, we'd do tryouts. And for every week, every day, the first week of tryouts, we had to run a 5K. And at this time, I think I was like 15, and a 5K was like, oh my gosh, that's awful. Like, why would you ever want to do a 5K? All my friends were complaining about it, but I did it and I realized I was like, I'm not that bad at it. And so I got some confidence through that. And it's so powerful when you like crush that first
Yeah.
like distance, whether it's a 5K, whether it's you go 5 miles and you just break through a ceiling because you're like, oh my gosh, wow, you gain some confidence. And so for me, I was primarily raised by my mom. My dad was around, but my mom has run a marathon every year for the last 33 years. And so she never told me to run. She actually never had a plan for me getting into running,
Hmm.
but she set a good example. And an example is worth 1,000 words. And so I saw her example, saw her doing a marathon every year. And I was like, man, if she can run a marathon every year, I could probably at least do a half. And so that's how I got into running really was I tried this half marathon and I had some doubts, had some reservations if I could do it, but I pushed through, I finished the race. And once I finished the race, it was like that explosion of, wow, I didn't think I could do this, but I did it. What else is possible? What else can I do? And so that just led me to going for a marathon, then 50 miles, 60 miles, 100 miles, and then ultimately the 200 milers and all that. But it just came from progressively doing a little bit more and more because years ago, I never could have even fathomed running 100 miles or 200 miles. And maybe listening to this podcast, you can't even fathom that. Maybe you can't even fathom doing a marathon. But with each distance you go a little bit further, more becomes possible to you and you're able to go after it.
Like that. And I think that it's interesting. Did your mom help you? Did she kind of give you any guidance on kind of your first half marathon, or did you talk to her
Uh,
a little bit about it, or what happened
a
there?
little bit. In those days, we didn't have all the fancy running gels and stuff. They just
Yeah.
had Cliff blocks. Yeah, or no, it was the Cliff, like, it tasted like icing. It was so hard to get down, but she gave me some of those. She gave me some Tylenol, told me to take that during the race. But yeah, she's old school. She just gets out there and runs. But she just encouraged me. Yeah, you can do it. Go for it.
She must be proud of you now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and she also takes some flack from my family because they all think I'm crazy and that she created a monster in me. Going after all these races, they think my knees are gonna be done when I'm 80, but I tell them they just need to start running.
That's true. I think there's maybe some truth to the knee thing, but I don't think for the most part there's any much truth to the knee thing. I think if you're
Yeah.
carrying a lot of weight and you're running or walking, then there could be some opportunity for you to maybe walk, run, or those kinds of things, so that you're not pounding your knees because of that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know. I don't know what you think about the thing around the knees. I hear that all the time. I'm like, no, my
Yeah.
knees are pretty good.
My whole thing is, sorry to interrupt you, but my whole thing with that is everyone who says something about that doesn't run. And so
That's right.
it's almost like their justification for not running. And,
That's right.
and yeah, I know so many people who are 60s. You see it during these ultra marathons. You'll see
Right.
70-year-olds doing these 100-mile races. And it's just, what in the world? In fact, I'm usually the youngest person at these
Mhm.
races I go to. The majority population is between 30 and 50, or
That's right.
more probably 40 to 50 than
Yeah.
anything else, because they've had those years of endurance built up, the bone density they have, and all that kind of stuff.
It's a good point. I think that the longer distances, for the most part, whether it's a marathon and above, you don't see a lot of 20-year-olds doing that. You're pretty young. How old are you? Mid
I'm
20s?
24 now.
Okay. Yeah. You're super young. So yeah, seeing 24-year-olds do 200 milers or 100 milers and 50, et cetera, is quite rare. You see some do marathons, but it's not, certainly a lot less in the ultra. So you've also, so we'll get off running for a second. You're also known for wearing kind of the Jesus is King shirts everywhere. You've got a
Yeah.
Jesus King shirt now. How many conversations has that actually started, like in airports?
All the time at airports. And I don't know if you know this, my thing at airports is when people comment on my shirt, I pray for them. So it's
Okay.
always a great conversation starter and opportunity to bless people. But yeah, God's changed my life. I wasn't a believer growing up, but went through some tough things and God was there for me. And even through the successes with ultra running, like I ran my first 100-mile race when I was 19 and like quickly got like attention from it. And I was like drawn to that attention. But I
Of
like
course.
would go through these races and have these mountaintop experiences where I run 100 miles or run 200 miles and everyone's cheering for me and messaging me how much I inspire them. And then a week goes by and all that's gone. And you just like, man, just this emptiness feeling. And I've grown my relationship with God over the last 5 years and it's been the best. And that's why I wear the shirt and also have a run club called Run with Christ in Dallas on the Katy Trail. So any listeners who are in their 20s and want to come out, we're always on the Katy Trail, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Shameless plug.
No, I love it. I'm always looking for run clubs to talk about. I've got some leaders of different run clubs that are coming out. There's this one podcast that I'm doing with that I did with. Have you seen Run It Up? Have you heard of that
No.
club? But basically, they have literally thousands of people in that club. And I just talked to the guy that runs it,
Wow.
come out in a couple of weeks. But I think that's awesome. I think that running clubs have taken off over the last, they've been there for a while, but they've just taken off over the last 5 to 6 years and just become huge in different areas.
I
I
have a
love that you've done that.
hypothesis.
Hey, what's that?
I think that a lot of people want to build community off of healthy habits. I think in the past we see like just the culture of going out for a drink with people, grabbing
Mhm.
a drink and getting together in that. And I'm not here to shame you for that. I'm not whatever. Like you do whatever you want. Have a beer. That's great.
Yeah.
But I think like people, and I'm especially seeing this with young people, is they want to like do fun things and get together around something that's productive and healthy. And
Yeah.
so you can get up early, go for a run, be done by 9 a.m. on Saturday,
Exactly.
feel amazing versus waking up at 10 or noon, hungover, regretting the decisions you made the night before. I don't know. That's just a hypothesis I have because they just have really skyrocketed. And you're totally right.
Yeah, and I think that, look, it's just a way to build community, and like you said, a healthy way to do that, and just do what others are doing as well. You're sitting there running 100 miles. Maybe those people in the community will just do 5 to 7 miles with you. You know what I mean? And that's cool. You still want to run with people, and you
Yeah.
even created a group around it. So I love that. Let's talk about that 100 miler that you did at 19. What inspired you to do that? And you said you got all these kind of people sending you messages and stuff. What happened there?
Yeah, I did the marathon my senior year of high school. That was 2018. And then
Okay.
went out to college at USC in California, or summer of 2019, going into freshman year of college. I read Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And that's where I first heard about 100-mile races.
Hmm.
And I didn't really understand that there were like actual races you sign up for. Like, I didn't realize how popular they were. And I think since that book's come out, I think the ultra scene, that
Yeah.
probably has blown it up a lot too. But yeah, I just thought like for an ultra, you just make a 1 mile loop and do it a bunch of times. And so I did at USC, I did 52 miles during exam study days to raise money for mental health. So wanted to do it for a good cause. I thought that a lot of people stress over exams and
Yeah.
yeah, you want to do good, get good grades, but it's not worth making yourself sick over. And
Yeah.
so yeah, did that, then did another one in COVID time and then worked my way up. So I went 52, 60, and then 100. And then
Okay.
that 100-mile race was just, yeah, 1 mile loop around my neighborhood in Ohio and got a bunch of friends to come out. And then, yeah, just through posting it on social media, it reached a good amount of people. But it was really cool. It was powerful. It was powerful for the people that got to be there. I had a lot of friends and family who had never run more than 10 miles, go 15, go
Wow.
20. Some do a 50K with me because when you're going 100 miles, you're not moving the quickest. And so most people can keep pace, especially once you get over 50 miles and you start
Yeah.
slowing down. So it was really cool to build community through that. But yeah, just making up these challenges and really with the goal of testing myself and seeing how far I can go.
So that's interesting that you're just making up the challenges yourself. Oh, I'm going to run 100 miles around. Is it a track or just a loop? A mile loop here.
1 mile loop around my neighborhood. So like a
Okay.
block in my neighborhood. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What inspired you to do that? It was just like, hey, I want to invite all these people to come out and run with me. And
Yeah.
what's the,
I just got so excited about, oh my gosh, I found this thing running and I'm able to push myself and inspire other people and it's just who knows what it could become. And I thought like I wanted to figure out what I could do.
yeah,
And I just started craving that to see. And then also like after doing these races and these huge efforts, it's whoa, I was able to do that. That's pretty wild. That's really cool. And so we are wired to get satisfaction out of working hard and like
yeah,
accomplishing things. And so I think like through that, I found some like worthy challenges that I was able to push myself with.
Do you work? Do you have a job or?
Yeah, I worked for a ministry for 2.5 years, and
Okay.
the guy I worked for, really cool story. I won't get into it too much, but essentially he was a NFL player, won a Super Bowl, but at the expense of every other area of his life. His life was in shambles, but
Yeah.
found God, and God completely changed around his life. So I worked for him in his ministry for 2.5 years. His name's Steve Weatherford. And then that's what brought me to Dallas. And
Man.
Steve helped me start coaching people in running.
Okay.
Just like I said, the power of a good example with my mom, like the power of mentors. Like I'm not who I am without the mentors I've had, the running coaches I've had, the triathlon coaches, the people like Steve who were like, hey, you've got this skill with running. Like you should help other people run races. And
Man.
so now I do that full time. I've been doing it a little over a year full time, coaching people for marathons and ultra marathons.
It's pretty cool that at such a young age you really knew to, or somebody helped guide you to find mentors and find people that are smart around you. What did that look like at 24? Most people are like just trying to figure out life. Not to say you're not, but just to have somebody like that to help you. What kind of guided you towards making those good decisions? I'm
Yeah.
curious, to be
I'm
honest.
definitely still figuring it out, so don't give me too much
Yeah,
credit.
of
But
course. We
but
all
but like I said, when I was growing up, like parents got divorced when I was 6. Because of that, it made me grow up faster, which sucked in some ways, but was good in others. Every summer I worked like 40 hours a week on my uncle's construction site doing like manual labor stuff. And then my mom was a nanny, so she was working all the time. And so it just made me more responsible. It made me more driven. Like I realized like from a young age, like I didn't want to be divorced when I grew up. I didn't want to struggle with money when I grew up. And so it just gave me a focus.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college was when I really started reading like personal development books, started studying guys like Tony Robbins and the Rich Dad Poor Dad, like Robert
Mm.
Kiyosaki, and learning personal finance. And so yeah, just started reading a lot of books. And then all these books talked about like how you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And then also like how your mentors are so important. And also how like when you're young, it's more about working to learn rather than working to earn because you're just
It's
like
true.
developing yourself. And yeah, I think I just like God just guided me in a very unique way to start studying this stuff like earlier on and just be more desire that more. And it's been really cool, like how it's panned out and what God has done.
That's pretty cool, man. I love that. And I love that you're smart enough to kind of take hold of that.
Thank you.
When you think about coaching and stuff like that, what does that look like for you and your clients? Are you coaching them? Are you putting training plans together or what does that look like?
Yeah, so the main thing is training plans, like understanding their goals, where they want to get to, and then where they're at, and how can we bridge the gap with the structured training plan. I think, it's really just intentionality behind the way that they train. Like my like target person that I coach is not like an elite Olympic athlete. It's more of like you and I, guys who want to get out there, push our bodies, see what fast marathon time we can run, maybe even run our first marathon or run our first 100 miler. And so when you get to that stage, like when you're in that stage, it's really about consistency, developing the habit of running multiple times a week. It's about not doing too much too quick because 90% of running injuries are caused just by scaling up your volume too quick. And I think in the age of Instagram and running influencers and all that, like you can see these guys crushing 50 miles a week, 70 miles a week,
Mhm.
100 miles a week, and think, oh, shoot, if I want to be good, I need to do that. When in reality, you don't realize they've been running for 6 or 10
Yeah,
years. And
exactly.
so if you start there, you're going to get injured. And so I really help people develop the consistency, give them a plan to follow so they don't scale up mileage too quick. Strength training is important for running as well. And then the fueling aspect of it too. Like fueling helps. Having more carbs in your system, taking in gels while you're running makes a huge difference. Hydrating. And so I help people with the whole journey, but that's the first couple things that people really need to dial in.
Well, on that note, I know you went from winging it with eating sandwiches, pizza during the first 100 milers. And
Yeah.
finally, for your 200 milers, you decided, hey, I need to hire a coach.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that and talk a little bit about the biggest training myth that you believed early that you now know is wrong.
Biggest training myth. That's a good question. I think for a lot for when I got into the 200s, I started going keto and doing that stuff because like it's such a long race and you're running at a low
Mm.
heart rate. But that kind of set me back because I wasn't taking enough carbs during my training. And carbs are not the enemy. Like carbs are fuel. And
Well, not
so
especially not during those kind of races.
yeah. And then too, if you want to run a fast marathon, you gotta have carbs. You gotta like the science is showing in the best performances that like the higher amount of carbs you're able to take in, like the better you can be. Like for instance, a guy, David Roche, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He won Leadville the
Mm.
last 2 years. I'm pretty sure he's been doing something like 110 grams of carbs per hour, which
During the
is
race.
yeah, during the race for 15 hours straight. Crazy.
Yeah.
But so him and then here's one recently that I even learned is, like, during these longer ultra endeavors, like, I used to only take caffeine, like, the last couple hours of it
Mm.
because I'm like, "Oh, if I get on caffeine, I have to stay on," which is true, but I didn't realize I could take it longer during the race, and so I would only use it, like, the first or the last 4 hours, but at Leadville, I was taking caffeine for I think it was 12 to 16 hours or so. Like I was doing
Okay.
like 200 milligrams every 3 to 4 hours. Now, this may be getting technical for some people, but yeah, caffeine usage was a myth. You really can use it the entire time or somewhat
Yeah.
within reason. Yeah, those are just a couple things.
So I want to go back to the coaching later, but talk a little bit about some of those big races you've done. You just mentioned Leadville. I think you've done
Yeah.
Moab and some other things like that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so after I did my first 100-mile race, I was like, "Oh, there's actually these ultra
Race.
marathons that I can sign up for." And I got a little excited, and I did 3 100-mile races in a year. I
Yeah.
did the Keys 100 from Key Largo to Key West, which is, like, insanely hot. If you wanna run
Yeah.
through the sun, that's a good race, 90% humidity. That I did Leadville that year, and then I did Brazos Bend, a Texas race,
Right.
and so that was that, and then the next year, I got tricked by the Instagram algorithms and this race director, Candace Burt,
Mhm.
not tricked, but she started posting and saying 200 is the new 100. And I was like, all right,
I
we're going
remember
to
that.
check these out. And then they do so great on their marketing that the 200s, when I signed up for them, were a lottery.
Mm.
But if you signed up for all three of them, you would automatically get into all of them. And
Right.
so I was like, don't tempt
That's
me with
great
the
marketing. I
time.
love that. She's
Yeah,
smart.
and so ended up going from never running a 200-mile race to running 3 200s in 3 months, and so that's probably, like,
What?
what I'm most well known for is, like, I did the Tahoe 200,
Yeah.
18 days later, I did the Bigfoot 200, and then a month and a half later or so, I did the Moab 240. So, yeah, that's, like, the first one actually turned out to be, like, 220 miles, then the second one was 214,
That kind of
and then
sucks.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and then the last was supposed to be 240, but my watch clocked 250, especially when you're that late rate when you're that race, if you're moving at 15, 20 minutes a mile, just hobbling through
Yeah.
10 miles, that's 2.5 hours
Oh, man.
extra
It
that you
feels
weren't
like
planning for.
eternity. Sometimes during a marathon, if you're dying, if you think you have 3 miles, that seems like a long time.
Yeah,
Something that I read is that in the 200 miler Tahoe at mile 60, you almost quit, right?
yeah,
But then you went to run, but you didn't quit. You kept going, finished. But then you went to run like Bigfoot 8 hours faster, just 18 days later. What kind of went through your mind? What changed? Like, how'd you do that? Right? Like, how'd you
yeah,
mentally get through all of that, knowing what you've done at Tahoe is probably great as you would have liked, especially on mile
yeah,
60, you almost quit. So you still
yeah.
had a long ways to go.
So during that race, I came more close to quitting than I ever have during an ultra marathon. And ultra marathons are such great teachers for life. And here's a great lesson that I learned. So I honestly came into Tahoe a little bit arrogant. I was like the young guy who's
Mm.
doing all these ultra marathons, and I was like,
No.
uh, yeah, I was like, man, if I usually place the top 10% of these races, I'm sure I can get top 10% of this 200, even though I've never done 200 before. And so I was arrogant, and then I was just excited. And so I forgot to lube up. And I usually lube all my private areas, my armpits,
Mhm.
my nipples, all that, just the places that are going to chafe because yeah, chafing can become a real issue and can destroy your race completely
For
at
sure.
that distance. Like you can get away with it during a marathon, but try doing that 8 times over, and that can lead to like just your skin being just destroyed. So, anyway, a mixture of not lubing up, and then I had an electrolyte imbalance. And so I started going diarrhea a lot. And
Yes.
so I had to keep going to the bathroom on the trail and was wiping and just, I started chafing really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm 30 miles in, 40 miles in, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how in the world am I going to be able to go 160 miles left to go? And so I started considering how far I had to go to my goal. And that's where I went wrong because when you're 40 miles into a race and you're already tired, you can't comprehend going 160
Yeah.
miles to go. It's like in life when we have these big grand goals for
Mhm.
our lives and we're not even close to them. It can feel like, how in the world am I going to get there? And so I let that get to me. Luckily, my coach, the Power and Coaches, he told me before you make a decision to quit during a 200 miler, eat and sleep. And so, anyway, I decided I was just going to get to the sleep station, eat and sleep to appease him. Then I was going to quit in the morning because I was so miserable. But luckily, I took his advice and I was good enough to go after like 2 hours of sleep to keep going. And I fought through that race, struggled the rest of the race, but I was able to get it done. And so I finished that race. My crew's, are you really going to do Bigfoot? I didn't think I was even going to be able to, but I talked to my coach. He's Pierce. We've trained for this. You can do it. But I knew that my
Good.
mindset needed to change. So I had a meeting with a mentor who's a former Navy SEAL. And he told me about this thing that they do in SEAL training they teach them called segmentation. And it's this mental strategy of breaking a larger goal down into smaller parts, into smaller
Mhm.
segments. And he said basically what they teach us in buds is to get through this, you got to focus on breaking it down into smaller parts. And so I was like, all right, my body's shot. I don't feel good. I'm still recovering from this, but let's see if I can change reality by changing my mind. And so I put the course distances on my phone for like how far in between each section. So I knew, okay, the segment's going to be 12 miles. Okay, this one's going to be 15 miles. This is going to be 8 miles. And then I had the vertical gain and then the descent. So I knew
Uh-huh.
if it was like a mainly uphill section or a downhill. And then I just went out for that race. I'm like, I'm going to give it all I got. And so I had that mindset going in. And so right then it was more possible for me because I didn't have to think about 200 miles. I just had to think 12 miles. And two, the cool thing is about that is like you may be feeling awful going into an aid station. I was feeling awful at certain points, but you get there, the crew's there, the volunteers are there, you have some Coke, you have an energy drink, whatever, and your energy gets up. And so I would find that sometimes I would be at my end, but I'd just focus on getting to that segment. And then at that segment, my energy could shift because of those things. So not just in ultra running, but in life, break it down into segments because you can turn a 200-mile race into easy chunks because of that. And it's so true in life as well.
I love that. Do you think that because you're breaking it down and into segments like that and thinking about that all the time, that seems like a mental trap as well? Is that, or is it
What do you
just
mean?
like you're saying, okay, I've got to do these 8 miles and that's from this hill to here, and then I've got to
Yeah.
break it down to this and this? You can think a lot. That's a lot of preparation right there. Do you do that before
Yeah,
the race or
I
do you
mean,
do it during the race?
you just gotta focus on one at a time.
Mm.
So all I'm thinking is 12 miles. 12
Okay.
miles, just gotta get these 12 miles done. And my phone already has all the segments
It's already
broken
done.
down, and so I
Got it.
just am looking at a number on a screen.
Did you win any of these races more specifically around your, I don't know if you won
No,
them or maybe
I
age
didn't
group or
end up
something?
winning.
Okay.
Once I finished those, I became the youngest guy to do the
Okay.
Triple Crown. But yeah, didn't win any of them, but was able to knock them out.
I didn't know if you got up there with Jim Walmsley at some of these 100 milers and just thought, I'm gonna kick his butt.
Yeah. Not yet, not yet. He's a freak. I love it. He's a
Oh,
great
I did
guy.
too. Yeah, I don't know him, but he's been my favorite to watch for a while. And so I love what you're doing. It's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
How do you, so When I was looking at some of the Moab footage, like from
Yeah.
one of your videos, there was a moment where you were clearly struggling. You say something like, I had no clue how long this is going to take. So how do you balance that planning versus accepting uncertainty in that ultra? How do you
Yeah, and
kind of think about that?
I think that's like just that's diligence too. I think if I recall that clip was from Tahoe. So
Mhm.
that was the first 200
Oh,
race I did. So I think that's also what helped me during Bigfoot was I had this realization, I am going to be out here for 3 to 4 excuse me, 3 to 4 days. Like I'm going to be out on this trail for 3 to 4 days, 70 to 80 hours or so. And so with that, I came in with a good expectation so that when it was taking longer, I didn't get so frustrated. Because if you go into a race with a goal of finishing it in 72 hours, and then you know your goal time's just like completely out of the wash, and you're focusing on, oh man, I'm gonna be out here for so long, I'm gonna be out here for so long. It just makes it so worse. It's like even in a marathon, if you do that, it's the same concept, just different races. And so, yeah, having that right perception is really powerful.
how do you think about crew? Like one is, I think you're going to have crew, at least from a 100 miler in general, like
Yeah.
especially at the Leadvilles. And how do you get people to do stuff like that? Seems like you have a pretty good personality and people seem to follow you and do things. So that's good. But how do you ask people to do that stuff for you? And what's that like?
Yeah. I hate asking people to do things for me.
You have to.
Luckily yeah, luckily, I have just such a great supportive crew, and how I view it is too, like, my views change, like, I used to think, "Oh, it's just me getting people to do things for me,"
Yeah.
when in reality, like, it's actually inviting people to be a part of a life-changing experience for them too, to where they may be changing your water bottles and getting you food and following you around and being your servant for the day,
Yeah.
but they get to be in an environment that's life-changing where you see people just coming to the end of themselves, but pushing through. That's inspiring. Like, it's inspiring seeing people struggle, but keep going. And
Yeah.
so, what I've found
Yeah.
is all my crew leaves these events inspired. They leave these events just believing that they can do more. They leave these events like wanting to do another one. And yeah, that's what I've learned. But yeah, I typically just ask friends to help me out. Some of my athletes will crew for me. And so it's unique when we get to have that experience together.
Are you out of curiosity, are your athletes younger? Or are they
No, I
just
coach
different?
people who are 40s all the way from like 20s to 40s. I have some athletes that have been in their 50s. It's interesting just the position God's put me in where I'm like leading other men that are double my age.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, right? You've done it's
Mastered the
such a
skill.
yeah,
Yeah.
at such a young age, you've done a lot, and it's just crazy what you've done, and I think it's pretty cool. So, in one of your videos that I listened to, you've talked about rejoicing in suffering and finding purpose in discomfort.
Yeah.
How do you distinguish between productive suffering and just being a masochist?
I guess a lot of people would consider what I do masochism. Take what I say with a grain of salt. But no, I think it's on a continuum. It's not binary. It's not productive versus masochism.
Yeah.
There's degrees. And I think that at the end of the day, is it going to make you better or not? Like, I think there's a certain point where some of this stuff like doesn't make sense, but then there's a point where it does. And I think
Uh,
it's dependent on the person to decide that for themselves. Like for me, there's races where I'm like, be taken off on a stretcher. Like, I don't care. I'm going to get it done.
mm,
But if I was going to deal with some life altering condition because of some race I did, that wouldn't be worth it for me. I'd
yeah.
live to play another day. I think people just see 100-mile races and 200-mile races and they're so unfamiliar with it that
Yeah.
they think honestly, like, they think I'm gonna die or something, and I think it's just that in that case is just a lack of understanding.
How do you balance the training when you look at when you talk about, well, I'm going to go run a 100 miler or 200 miles. It's not that you just can go out and run a 100 miler or 200 miler. You have to train for that. I mean, that's why you hired a coach to train for something that insane.
Yeah.
And is it insane? Look, it's a lot of miles. I'm not saying it's not. But what is your training cycle like? Is it that much different from a 100 miler to a 200 miler?
Yeah, 200 milers a
Yeah.
little bit more. It might be like 25% more, but
Really?
it's not double because your body can only take so much. before you get injured or there's breakdown. You're just like through training, you're constantly like riding the how can I stress the body without overstressing it to the point of injury? And yeah, that's the case. But when it comes to trainings a lot, like 100-mile race, I used to think like everyone should run an 100-mile race. And I think that sounds great in theory, but I don't think that now. Because if you have a family, you have kids, yes, you can do it. But
Sure.
if you're also trying to grow your business at the same time and provide for your family and build a financial fence around your family and all that, it may not be worth it. It's like opportunity cost. Do you want to spend 12 hours, 15 hours a week running and away from your family, away from those other commitments, away from your business? Or do you want to focus on those areas? So I think it's productive for certain people in certain seasons, but it doesn't make sense for everyone.
I think balance in life is you got to have it, right?
Yeah.
I believe that exercise, it doesn't necessarily have to be running. I just find that running for me and for a lot of people have been helpful in weight and stress relief and things like that. And helps me to want to accomplish something. For example, I have a half marathon this coming weekend.
Let's go.
I'm going to fly out to Utah and my hope is to PR. And that's just my own personal thing
Yeah.
is that I'm trying
You gotta
to
have goals.
accomplish. You got to have
Yeah.
goals, right? For me, back in the day, it was more about losing weight when I was 20 pounds, 30 pounds overweight. So 15 years later, or I don't know, is it 13 years later, 14? I'm still doing it. I'm very consistent at it. I've met a lot of great people. I think you're right. Yeah, you don't have to run 100 miles a week or even 50 miles a week, but you can do 10 or 20 miles a week. And that's good enough, especially if you have a
Yeah.
family and work and all of these things.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What's as you kind of look forward? I know you're about to get married, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's my
So,
next ultra marathon
yeah, that's hopefully the forever marathon.
for sure.
Anything that, comes to mind, or is that are you taking a break or what?
Yeah, I just finished up the 5 months running a half marathon a day, and then I went into
All right,
Leadville.
let's talk about that. Sorry about that.
Oh, no,
Let's
you're good.
let's talk about your 153 days straight of half marathon. What was that? What inspired you to do that? And what happened?
Yeah, so it's cool, like, I feel like I've been divinely led through all my challenges because there's so many different races you can do, and I'm always like, "God, which one do you want me to do?" So a friend sent me this guy breaking the record someplace in Europe, and it was, "How many days can you run a half marathon on a treadmill in a row?" And it has to be on the same treadmill, you have to have video record it, 2 angles, you have to have 2
Hmm.
witnesses there every
I was
single
going to ask
day.
you what that was. Yeah.
Yeah, so just lots of qualifications. It's way more than just running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And it's a half marathon. It's 2 hours a day you're running. But anyway, so someone sent me that. Couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, maybe
Right.
I should do it. And I talked to a friend about it. He talked to his manager at Lifetime Fitness,
Yeah.
and they opened a door to do it at Lifetime here in Las Colinas. I was like, sweet, let's ride. And so I did that challenge to push my body, also to inspire people that they're capable of more than they think. And
Yeah.
then I fundraised for Lifetime's foundation that helps get healthier food in schools because I think, yeah, we just in America, you look at Europe and you look at our food system and it's completely different. And I think there's just a lot of garbage that we allow in our country that other countries don't, unfortunately. Like,
That's a true
unfortunately for
statement.
us.
Go to
Yeah.
France, like I was just in France, and you get to go to the market, fresh foods. Their meat is not to get off on this, but whatever they look at their meat, and it's all lean, it's all grass fed, it's all certified, right?
Yeah.
You can't in France put this processed meat in front of people. You can't. It's
Yeah.
against the law.
Yeah.
So there's just stuff like that. You're right. And I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, just saw that and I'm like, we need to raise some awareness. So, anyway, that was what the whole challenge was about. It was a challenging 5 months for sure.
Mm.
3 times I had to restart the day because I had to get off of the treadmill and go to the bathroom
Oh, no.
because if you have to get off, you have to completely restart for the day.
Which
Had
mile were you
that.
in?
What?
Were you in the last miles or?
Oh, yeah. One time I was at mile 11 and I
Oh,
had to get up. Yeah, it was horrible.
so I had to do
Um
13 more. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
someone was like, "You need to get diapers."
Yeah. But you can't
But
run
then
and go to the bathroom. It's really hard to do, you know?
this is worse. So, I had the 2 cameras and they have to be recording, and one of the days
No.
I had to I forgot to delete the camera storage, and so the camera
Certainly.
shut off without me knowing, so I finished the whole 13 only to look at my camera and it's dead, and I'm like, Oh my gosh. So I had to completely run again. So those were marathon days, but
Oh my
but I mean,
goodness.
the challenge is the point.
Yeah.
I had this day, it was day 98 or 99. It was one of those days where I forgot to delete my camera storage and I run the whole thing and I look and it's not recording and I'm so pissed off and I go into the bathroom and I'm just like, because I didn't want everyone else to see. I was just like
Yeah.
really mad and I just wanted to take a moment for myself.
It's
And
okay. Of
I
course.
I thought to myself, in life we have defining moments. There are
Sure.
moments in our lives that define our lives. And this was a defining moment for me because it was like I could be the guy who the camera thing happens. It's not really my fault, but is I could make up some excuse and then not continue on in the challenge. And people would probably support me and
Yeah.
encourage me and say, oh, it's all right. Just get it next time.
Yeah.
I could be the guy that figures it out, finds new witnesses, and comes back later and gets it done no matter what at all costs, pushes forward. And I just had this realization where it's like, I'm just choosing to be that guy and choosing to be that guy every day because who's to say that if I quit on this challenge, I wouldn't quit on other things in my life. Like when my marriage gets hard or kids get hard or
Yep.
these other areas of my life get hard. It's like this endurance. Some people would say, oh, yeah, you're being extreme for that. Yeah, I am extreme because I don't want to have a divorce. I don't want to have these different things. And so I treat like aspects of my life like this to those extremes because it's like training and your running is training for life because it trains your mind. And okay, I'm done with that rant, but it was a powerful day. Who do you
That's
want to be?
awesome. Look, relationships are different than running, you'll see, but there will be obviously opportunities within your marriage and relationship. A lot of fun things, a lot of opportunities that are going to be hard at times, and you'll have to figure out how to overcome it in a different way. Won't be running away, but that's awesome. And look, whatever it takes, I think, to kind of get you through that. I mean, it's a good point. Hey, look, my life is, I want to keep going, but I'm going to accomplish this because one, it's got to be inspiring for me, not just inspiring,
Yeah.
but I want to overcome this.
Yeah.
No matter the challenge, it was a challenge. You just ran 13 miles, 13.1, and now you got to do it all over again because of some stupid
Yeah.
mistake you made. That is life. And I
Yeah.
love that you overcame it and you still did it. Was there any other big challenges? Was it like day 153 was like, oh my goodness, yes, there's some excitement, but maybe even before that, was there,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. I'm tired of it.
The main thing I tell people this is like running 100 miles is harder, like minute by minute for
Sure.
than that. But 153 days straight, consistency, getting two witnesses a day, doing all the things I had to do today, that day, like not traveling at all for 5 months, like
Yeah.
passing up family vacations and whatnot. That's a sacrifice. That's a commitment. And so that was challenging. Consistency is hard. Consistency is challenging, especially trying to do that.
Yeah, look, the things that you're going to be good at in life are one, getting people to do stuff, right? Making it like an amazing experience. Two is overcoming hard things and just, you can really, again, get some people to come and watch you video it, get a gym to, in a sense, sponsor it in a way.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's pretty cool. As you kind of look at, did we talk about you? What's next? I don't even know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think we
Yeah,
finished that conversation.
I think my main focus right now is, like, getting married, starting
Mhm.
marriage off in an amazing foot, and then I'm running the Houston Marathon. My goal is 2:45.
Okay.
Yeah, in January,
Love that.
so gonna go for that, and then we'll see where it takes me. I wanna do Battle 135 at some point, and then
Mm.
it's been a goal for a number of years. I just haven't got around to focusing on it, and then, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see where life takes me.
So with the Houston Marathon, do you run with a group or are you just focusing in just on your own and doing a training?
I'm coaching some guys for it, but yeah, I'm gonna train myself for a fast marathon and practice what I preach and get faster and yeah, so
So what does
document the
your
process.
training look like for that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm about to get into it, but mainly
Mhm.
consists of 6 days a week of running.
Yeah.
I'll do 4 easy days, one speed workout, and then a long run. And then the long run, probably 4 to 6 times will over the 16-week block will be like a marathon style workout where I'm working in longer sets at
Some
marathon
speed.
pace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
3 miles on, 1 mile off, work up to 4 or 5 sets of that. at Marathon Pace. Yeah.
If you ever are interested, there's a group called Pegasus, Train Pegasus here in Dallas that are about your speed, about your time. And a lot of those guys run a CIM and stuff like
Okay.
that. So you might,
Yeah.
if you want to get into group,
Wow.
check them out. It's called Train Pegasus. They're on Instagram. So sometimes it's just good to run with people that are like-minded. And another group called the Sloths are hitting under to low to mid 230s. So yeah, so that could be another group. They all run
Yeah.
together sometimes too,
Okay.
but this is kind of your speed guys, gals.
Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So for fun lightning round, I've never done this before. Why not? But I know as an ultra guy, you've had to stop at the gas station and get some food and stuff like that. So what's your favorite gas station food during a race?
Favorite gas station food? I'm not a big gas station food guy,
Really?
but
What do you bring?
I'll get water and the electrolyte drinks. I drink Alani's sometimes as energy drinks late in a race. The old Mexican Coke is great. It's hard to
Mhm.
find
Heck
sometimes,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
that pure cane sugar is great.
I love that. The worst hallucination during a 200-mile race.
Oh, I don't have a crazy story, but one of my friends thought he saw people waving at him from the other side of a ravine. And there was like a gas station and all this stuff. So he was top 10, I think, at the Moab 240, had this
Oh, wow.
horrible hallucination, starts going off the trail down this ravine that's extremely steep, like cliff drops. And luckily, the race director sent someone out and got him, and he was okay. But he went from 10th place to one of the final 10 to finish. But yeah, it can get wild.
That is wild. Too bad it wasn't yours.
Yeah.
So if you had a crew, someone else through a 200, what's the one thing you do differently than your crew did for you?
I've had great crews. Sometimes, though, because it's 200 miles and it's multiple days,
It's
they'll
rough.
forget where they put certain equipment of yours. So one time I was going out at aid station, I'm like, hey, I need my hat. And they didn't have it. I'm like, guys, you've been sitting around for, and also when you get late in a race, your filter goes off. And so I definitely have had some unfiltered moments.
I was pacing my wife during her first 100 miler one time. One time it was so late. So she was so tired and she's never done. And so we were sitting there walking, really. We weren't running at the time. And she was like, can you hand me this thing? And I was like, yeah. I go, hold on. Let me get all this other stuff out of my hands. She goes, you're my mule. You need to help me now. And I was like, okay, I'm going to help you.
That's hilarious.
But it's going to take a minute.
Yeah.
But she was just
Yeah.
completely unfiltered. And
Yeah. It happens.
but
Happens to
I'm
the
her
best of
mule.
us. Yeah.
Is there anything that I should have asked you that I just completely missed and that you were like, I wish these podcast people would just ask me these questions instead, or they missed this or that?
No, this podcast has been really fun, Chris. I loved this conversation. I think maybe one thing is that I just lead people with and encourage people with is the only way I've been able to do these races is because I started with the 5K. And
Yeah.
so I don't know what that next thing is for you. Like I went from the 5K to the half to the full to the 50 miles. Just figure out what's next for you and go after that. Because you don't need to say, oh, Pierce ran 240 miles. I need to do that. If you've run a marathon, go for 50 miles. Or if you want to get into triathlons or you want to do something else. But when you do these things, the more you do, the more becomes possible. And so I just want to leave people with that is you're capable of way more than you think. And you will get yourself to realize that as you push yourself. And so
Yeah.
don't let anyone hold you back, tell you that you can't do that you're too old or you're too young or you're too out of shape. Like you can do it and get some momentum in your life because that will help you actually accomplish it.
Yeah. And my advice there too is train with the group, find a running community that are doing some 2-mile runs or whatever. Or if you want longer runs, there's lots of, especially in the DFW Metroplex, there's 60 or 70 running groups in all of DFW. So get yourself into that. Train properly, and then, push yourself. Nothing like just pushing yourself to get better and staying as healthy as possible. I love that. You have a great message. Pierce, it's been great, man.
Yeah, I've loved this, man. It's been so fun. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Of course. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Don't forget to rate and review us, and make sure you subscribe to dfwrunningtalk.substack.com for our newsletter. Would love to have you subscribe. And until next time, Pierce Showe. So Pierce, thanks again.